Hello, Midnighters or my starlets. Welcome to the Midnight Sound Podcast. I'm your host, Sakina, and it's not the first time that you're hearing this voice, so thank you so much for coming back and supporting this little space on the internet. Without further ado, I won't be super long winded today. I have a really interesting thing to talk about today, which I think everyone, every single person in this whole entire world and planet, not even just the people, all of the species can relate to, and that is falling in love, or more particularly, how to get over a crush. Well, I chose to talk about this exact theme simply because I feel like I was being a bit too broad with my episode themes, and I wanted to make sure that I talk about with the things that people can resonate with. A lot of people actually deal with, not just being random and like super rambling all the time. Anyways, I feel like in order to get to the point of talking about how to get over a crush, we need to assess what it means to be in how do I say it, to be infatuated with someone, because a crush essentially means being infatuated with someone, being um how do I say, being dazed by the idea of them. You see, there's a difference between being in love with a person themselves versus with the idea of them. Because a lot of the times when you're in love, it has gone past the stage of being a crush kind of situation. Because a crush essentially means you are in love with the idea of that person, with the idea of how they look, with the idea of how they behave, how their personality is, how uh, they will treat you. I don't know what their interests are, and etc. And I feel like developing a crush can be fun and exciting in the beginning, exciting and like elating, almost like you're having the highest highs of your life, but it doesn't last that long, honestly. Either you move on to the next crush, or you just, that feeling of almost almost as if you're losing your mind will subside and will plummet substantially. The reason that I tell you this is not to deter you from the love and from the idea of love, but to give you a virtual slap of grounding yourself and keeping things real. Because don't get me wrong, I was a chronic daydreamer, a hopeless romantic, I don't know what they call it. But I had to think for love. I had to think for falling in love. Um, I was like, it has to be special. There has to be a special moment of the person that I would fall in love with, and between him and I or whatever. I was like, I was overrating and like overplaying the idea of what falling in love would look like, as opposed to actually letting myself live it. Cause a crush is a crush is someone that you, I don't know, either love their look, or love their personality, or are just interested in that person as a general. But I feel like being in love or loving someone is a completely different story. Because love requires commitment, effort, time, patience, I don't know, stillness, tranquility. It translates into these words in my mind. But crush, or you see, in my language, we have two different words for love. But in English, it's just everything is called love. You can't, there isn't a different uh, translation of it in terms of how you could tell the difference, as if it's a lust or love, because in both ways you call it I'm in love. But there's a humongous difference between actually, how do I say? Oh, you could say it, you could actually differentiate it with the words of being infatuated versus being in love. And more often than not, a crush kind of a situation is or has a lot to do with being infatuated with a person. But let me tell you this. Let's just play a little game of grounding ourselves and bringing back ourselves into reality, into this realm and into this world, right? Let's just say, how many books have you read about love, about being in love, about having a crush or whatever? How many philosophers, how many lecturers you have, lecturers, preachers, I don't know, arts have you seen or listened to or watched or experienced that had a lot to do with love? Probably way too many, right? And don't get me wrong, love is a pure material for the arts, for the creators. For the creators to put their uh never-ending flow of emotions and energies into a piece of something, into a piece of art, and turn it into something beautiful, right? But in real life, love doesn't look exactly like it is in the movies or in the books or in the poetries or in the lyrics. It's messy, it's chaotic, it's confusing sometimes. Um it has flaws, it has ups and downs. It doesn't follow a like a definitive route of like a certain way as it is in the movies or in the books and in the arts, let's say. And the reason I mention arts is because a lot of us, 99.999% of us, are inspired by the arts. We base the idea of love and falling in love off of the arts, off of the books, off of the movies. We feel like we gauge that love should look a certain way, but it shouldn't. Everyone's opinions of love, everyone's experiences of love is pretty personal and subjective to their lives, to their past, present, to their upbringing and etc. You know, love isn't one size fits all. Let's say a perfectly famous and like well-known, highly reputable philosopher goes up to the stage and preaches us about love, what love is, and this and that. Will every single person in the room or listening to that relate to that piece of advice or definition? Probably no. So, over the centuries, over the whole civilization of the people, the philosophers, the greatest, like people with the greatest minds have been trying to reveal and like um understand, suss out the tangible meaning of love, what love is, but no one has been able to do that. Trust me. So, if you see something in a movie and feel like your love life should resemble that, you're fooling yourself. And please stop fooling yourself because in our 20s, especially in our late 20s, we're heading towards our 30s. The last thing we want to do is to fool ourselves and be delusional. I know some people sell this idea of you should be delusional, you should be delusionally believing in your ideas or dreams or whatever, this and that. But no, trust me, I was there, been there, done that, and honestly didn't see any good side of it. And in my lifetime, I've had many crushes. And I'm such a sucker for the gaze of someone. And by the gaze, I mean for the way they look at you. I'm such a, let's say some people are turned on uh by their crushes, I don't know, athletic bodies, by their uh, cadence, I don't know, by their brain, by their what by their money, by their status. But for me, I'm such a, like I said, sucker for the eyes of the people. My biggest turn on is the way someone looks at you, right? So I was like, I would I felt like I was a radar that wouldn't switch off its alert stage, its vigilance state, and would try to catch who was looking in which ways to me. And I would always try to find the depth of the look of the gaze and glare in someone's eyes. And that's why I've probably had way too many crushes than I would love to have. But the cool part was that I was questioning myself. Was there something wrong with me? Was there something wrong with me for the fact that I wasn't psychologically settling down for just one person? And the answer is no. There was nothing wrong with me. As long as we are alive, as long as we are on this realm, we have the full capacity to fall in love. So, if you're going through a stage in your life where you're grieving, mm, grieving the loss of your crush or grieving the loss of your partner, you're going through breakup and stuff, or you're going through such a painful period of having an unrequited love, know that it shall too pass, just like anything else. So the things that we think, we assume, or we kind of calculate that it's going to kill us, it never does. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You know that, right? Time heals everything. I have had such an intense feelings towards some crushes of mine, such with such an intensity. Now that I remember those times, I'm like, it probably wasn't love. It was just the idea of that person. It was just the idea that I had created in my mind with my own bare imagination that made me suffer. But it wasn't really worth it. I could have prevented myself a lot of suffering had I not been so creative in my mind in terms of putting people on a pedestal. That person must be super into me because they look at me with a certain look. I can see the depth in their eyes. I can see that. You see, I was like, the eyes are the portals of someone to one's soul and etc. I was like, they're secretly in love with me. It's just they are being shy about confessing it. They're just our situations, our circumstances are playing against us. The odds are the all of the odds are against us. I don't know. They're also um I don't know, calculating a time to come up to me and confess their feelings and stuff, but they just can't and stuff. You know, everything was so theatrical in my mind that I at some point I was like, there was a point in my life when that was, I feel like, the highest high, the most euphoric crush that I've ever had. A couple of years ago, and I was like, even by the sight of that person, I could, I was just getting dizzy. I was like, the fuck is going on? The literal fuck is going on? What is that? I was getting dizzy and anxious, and like my heart was plumping up insanely. I was like, baby girl, what the fuck is going on? I couldn't realize at that time what was really happening. But now that I'm a lot older and I can name things exactly what they are, I can definitely tell that it was just lust. And lust is different than love. Like I mentioned already, love is patient, lust is not. Love is still, tranquil, peaceful. Lust is not. Lust is aggressive. Lust is full of, I don't know, blurring all the lines, crossing the lines, seeing everything in red, and like impatient, wanting to get that person as soon as you can. But love isn't. Love is still loving, still having the capacity of loving that person, even if they reject you. But lust is getting angry and aggressive towards that person in case of any rejection. I was in lust. I'm not gonna lie. And there's nothing to be ashamed of that, honestly. Because being in your 20s is such a confusing decade of your life. You're like, am I mad? Am I going bonkers, losing my mind? What the fuck is going on? Being in your 20s is like you're in lust, you're falling in love with every single, not every single person, but like a lot of people with whom, with whose vibes or look kind of turns you on. You're in confusion all the time, asking, questioning, and more often than not finding the answers to your questions. uh, you're like, dang it, is it ever gonna end? Is this confusion and madness ever gonna end? And it probably will. I've heard from a lot of people that once you're in your 30s, once you're over your 30s, you will stop giving a shit about the things that you cared so much in your 20s. You gave so much energy in your 20s, whatever that you give so much energy in your 20s will not matter in your 30s anymore, because depending on each decade of your life, your priorities change. And hopefully we will get wise enough to not glamorize or over romanticize that romantic love. And one really cool thing that I would do to get rid of the filter that I had created about that person would be like, I was like, oh my god, I'm getting dizzy again. This person, my crush is in front of me. They're coming close to me. Do I look good? Do I look this and that? Like I was forging such a toxic environment for myself, that as if I was in a show or I was being scrutinized, or I good enough for that person, but actual concept should be, is that person good for me? That should be the real attitude now that I'm older. And in that case, I feel like if I ever find myself in similar situations, or if I ever had to give you a piece of advice of how to put that person down from that pedestal that you have put them on, would be realistically turning that person from fairy tale god or goddess image to a real human image, if that makes sense. Like telling myself that honestly, that person is just as much human as I am, with their flaws, with their insecurities, with their struggles, with their, life path to move on. That person eats when they're hungry, drinks water when they're thirsty, I don't know, laughs, cries, gets angry, gets mad. What else? They pee, they fart, they burp, they might have bad taste of humor. I don't know, they might cry over some cartoons or whatever. They're just as human as I am. So there's nothing to be over romanticized about them. And another cool trick that I have is, please do not fool yourself with the expectations of, or creating, or what do I even say it? What do I even call it? Like, with this, don't exhaust yourself with these made up scenarios in your head that that person doesn't come up to me and tell me that they're in love with me. just because they have got other issues in their lives, just because they have got other partner that they, they want to get rid of, that they're not in love but just simply are together. They are secretly in love with me and this and that. That's all bullshit. These kind of these kinds of thoughts should be thrown away straight into the garbage bin right there, and should never enter your brain ever again. Because if that person was in love with you, you know what they would do? They would come up to you. They would confess. They would let you know. They would give you the signs. They would give you the cues, that some signs that would never be uh it wouldn't be possible to it would be impossible to ignore or unsee those signs. They would try their best to make sure that you know that they're into you as well, as opposed to you trying to consolidate yourself or trying to um, comfort yourself with the ideas as if they are just the circumstances or the odds are against you. No, they're not. They're just not into you. You're just interpreting things in a wrong way. Um, Another tip that I have for you guys is um, assessing your situation and really taking your time with this question of, is it really worth it to go against your whole entire world over just one person? Let's say you're madly in love with a person, right? But your family, your friends, your parents, your the people that love you and are rooting for you, that you have known for the ages, are all against it. They don't support you. But you're like, but I'm in love. I want to be with that person. That person is the one and only for me, right? Ask yourself this question. This quintessential question, by the way. Is it really worth it to fight against the whole entire world just for that person? In the lyrics, in the arts, in the music, it could sound fun and romantic to say things like, as long as you love me, we could be starving, we could be homeless, we could be broke. As long as you love me, I could be platinum, silver, or gold. I mean, these lines should stay in the lines only. You see, being with the person at the expense of being homeless, being broke, being starving is no fun at all. I mean, you wouldn't even last, I don't know, just 1 month of starving, right? You wouldn't. You would get sick and tired of it. You would be like, is this the life that I chose over the life that I had? It's not worth it. And trust me, no feeling lasts forever. No feeling. The most intense feelings that we experience, that we feel like are gonna be there for the whole life, will be gone in about a few months. It could even be less than a month. Because they just take this structure our ideas, right? You you have a crush on someone. It has to do with, come on, let's just be honest. We are young. We are full of hormones. We're full of madness. We're hot blooded and stuff. You're in love. You have, you get the almost like an anxiety like symptoms around that person. You're like, I want to get that person, right? That person has to be mine. You're getting as delusional as you can, the really as delirious as you can. And then you get that person. You are with that person. You get the literally anything that you possibly could have imagined with that person. But the next day you're like, all right, that's it. That's literally it. After that, any feeling, the intensity will diminish slowly. And for some people, it's actually gradually. Because imagine it this way: since our childhood, let's say we wanted a gift so bad for the Christmas or for our birthdays and etc. Right? We were we were dreaming, we were daydreaming, we're planning about how we would act, how we would do, how we would play with that toy, right? But the minute we get it, and just only once we start to play it, the next day we're on to the next one. We're on to the next item. It's the same thing. Human nature does not change, honestly. It's in our bloodline to not settle down with just one thing. And it will be the same concept in terms of love as well. You won't settle down with just one emotion, it will change its forms. That makes sense to you. And to get over a crush, you should. I feel like you don't ever forget the people, especially the ones that you have had crushes on. It's just they're stored somewhere in the back of your subconsciousness, but it's a matter of not prioritizing them anymore, letting go of them anymore. Like, will you not be able to live without that person? Probably that idea is wrong. You will. You will be able to breathe. You will be able to live. You will be able to eat food. You will be able to find someone else attractive. You will be able to pick your hobbies back. You know, there are way too many um exciting and thrilling activities to prioritize rather than just falling in love or being in love or being romantically in love with someone. You see, maybe if you could tell, but I'm talking in such an aggressive way and with such an aggressive tone right now because I'm like, I kind of want to give people the much needed, give the confused people the much needed slap on their faces that wake the fuck up, okay? Wake up from this makeshift world, realm that is not real. Unless you call me, you text me, you invite me to a dinner, then you tell me, you let me know in person that you are into me, then you're not. I don't even consider you anymore. And I hope that I had someone to tell me these stuff as radically as they could. I wish there was someone. Or maybe I wouldn't even listen to them because of my age. I would have needed to experience the stuff, experience the ups and downs of falling in love and having crushes and etc. to wake up and like have a grip about actual life and what actual life is. And then my last thing that I could suggest you would be just remember that no matter what, life continues. Life will continue whether you cry or smile, whether you laugh or are angry, whether you have injuries or healthy, whether, I don't know, you are broken or you are healed, whether you're broke or wealthy. Life continues anyways. So remember that in this life, you are born alone and you will leave this life, this realm alone as well. So do not make any one person your whole life, your whole universe, but rather try to have more meaningful life filled with your hobbies, with your family, with your friends, being curious about the life around you as opposed to wanting to be madly in love with just one person. Cuz trust me, peace, tranquility, um and calmness are way more important in life than being mad, I think.